6. Verse 24 reads, I will take you from among the heathen and gather you from all the countries and will bring you into your own land. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols I will cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. And then ye shall dwell in the land that I gave your fathers, and ye shall be my people, and I shall be your God. This is the first introduction of spiritual rebirth, regeneration, or being born again, and the foreshadowing of the process and the procedure that will be fulfilled in Christ by which men may be born again. From this passage, which is read in Ezekiel 36, the operation of the spiritual rebirth is not only foreshadowed, it is literally outlined. What did God say in that Ezekiel 36? By the sprinkling of water. Secondly, God takes something away to kill that old man, that nature in us that is addicted and enslaved to sin, in order to enable us to live that new spiritual life. He takes out the heart of stone. Thirdly, God gives us something by which we can become reborn. A new spirit, his spirit, and a new heart of flesh. And fourthly, God makes something happen. He causes something to happen wherewith we're now able to actually keep his commandments and walk in his laws. And finally, he makes us fruitful. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. John 15. The Father has revealed Israel his firstborn, the operating steps or the stages of what it's going to take to become regenerated or save your soul. Now the Son, not unlike the Father, is about to reiterate the same revelation to this Gentile, again telling us how religious reformation, and the reason I'm bringing up religious reformation here as a contrast to spiritual reformation is to show you one of the reasons why celestial remains the way it is. Because celestial has experienced a profound religious reformation. But we cannot settle there. And listen to what God says. Listen to what Christ says in this dialogue with the Samaritan woman. She said in John 4:19, the woman said unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. But ye worship what ye know not, but we worship what we know, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such as this to worship him. God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And the woman saith unto him, I know that the Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. And Jesus said unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. Notice what is being said here. First of all, the Jews were telling the Samaritans, you cannot worship where you are. You have to worship in Jerusalem. The same way Celestials parade that this is the last ship of salvation that will cleanse the world. But Jesus is coming here to tell us that yes, you have been worshiping on this mountain for so long, but that worship is not enough. All it has done is become a breeding ground of people whose very lives, expressions, and worship is an abomination in my sight. The time is now come for you now to enter into a different kind of worship, a spiritual worship. One that has nothing to do with this mountain or that mountain, but rather that lives in the spirit of regeneration of Christ. This is religious rebirth before you. If you look at this sea, you might as well be looking at heaven. If you look at this sea of people in white, gathered together, hands up in worship, you might as well be looking at saints and angels in heaven. But how many wearing white are covering hearts that are as black and wicked as evil itself? You cannot tell by looking at that. And this is what religious worship looks like. This is what religious rebirth looks like. We look sanctified on the outside. We look pious on the outside. We look holy on the outside. Men of God, women of God. And yet in our hearts, such wickedness, vileness, and corruption lives. It's so funny. We'll talk about when the video was being posted, the pilgrimage that was just completed in Egypt and Israel, and being posted on the different social websites. And there was one there where our father, the HOD, was baptizing people in the River Jordan, just taking them, dipping them, bringing them up. And let me show you what religious rebirth looks like. And somebody put a comment there and said, "Do not destroy the tenets of Celestial Church, sir. This is not how we do baptism in Celestial. They must be completely immersed in the water." We will notice how much we immerse people in water. We will notice who is wearing black or which new member came into the church. And because they are a new member and they don't know, and they come dressed in an official capacity, though they're wearing black, we'll tell them they have to leave because our tenets don't allow us to wear black. A story that someone I know shared with me in a church he goes to in Nigeria, where the shepherd came to her in the middle of the service and whispered, "My sister, please don't wear black bra." We will notice things like that and decide that we are truly worshiping God. You will get a video of fights in Celestial where the shepherd and somebody are throwing rice at each other, tearing each other's stomachs apart. Somebody forwarded it to you, and what do? You forward it. "Oh, I only forwarded it to 7 people. Oh, I'm just doing my part so people can know what is really going on in the church." And then from the 7, those will also send it to 70, who will send it to 700, and before you know it, before nightfall, 3 million people have viewed it. So that the name of God, the name of Christ is scandalized and bastardized. And you say you're doing God's work. C.H. Spurgeon, the evangelist emeritus, writes, "The church is not perfect, but woe to that man who finds pleasure in pointing out her imperfections." Christ loved his church, and let us do the same. Woe to that man or woman who takes pleasure in pointing out her imperfections. Because you know what Christ did instead? He covered the imperfections of the bride. He knew how imperfect we were. And yet he covered it with his grace, his humility, his blood, his very life. But we take pleasure in pointing out its fault. If they send you the video, why don't you be the one person who says it stops here with me? Again, spiritual rebirth. I had one concern with the title of the topic I was given, Steps to Spiritual Rebirth. And the reason I say I had a problem with it is that it denotes that there are steps I must take, things I must do, things I can do to accomplish spiritual rebirth. And this may be a point of contention, but from everything we read in Ezekiel 36 about the operation of rebirth,